remembering that we're not part of this material world. When we're part of the material world, it's because we're identifying with some life situation, or I am my body and so forth. So just simple realignment before we start is very helpful. So let's just look at it again. It's available. We can make it available to anybody who wants to download it. But if you'll put up the Bhuta Shuddhi, Bhuta means the elements, and Shuddhi means to purify. So it means literally purifying the elements. And the purification takes place by awareness. When we're aware of the fact that we're not our body and that we're an eternal servant of Krishna, those two things, and we chant with that alignment, then we're likely to be more attentive. So the Bhuta Shuddhi, which I'll just repeat myself because we don't have it, says that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, but somehow or other I've fallen into the material world. And because of that, Hare Krishna, Karna, I didn't know you were here. Good to see you, my obeisances. Hare Krishna. Welcome back. Thought I was dreaming. It says that because I've misidentified myself as being part of the material world, I'm being burnt by the threefold miseries. And it goes on to say, now, as a result of some unimaginable good fortune, by the mercy of my spiritual master, I know, if you want to read along, I'm an infinitesimal living being completely apart from the gross and subtle body. Now, by the order of my spiritual master, I have obtained the good fortune of serving his lotus feet, as well as the lotus feet of Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu and Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan. And the next is in the same vein. It's a verse that Caitanya Mahāprabhu would sometimes recite, and just goes through by elimination that I'm not this, I'm not that. And he says, I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya, if you want to read along, if you can. I'm not a Vaishya or a Shudra, nor am I a Brahmachari. A householder, a vanaprastha, or a sannyasi. Does that cover everybody? Well, you're not any of those things. I identify myself only as the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar, and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. So today I just want to introduce a brief concept, and that is that spiritual practice is simple. And one of the ways that it's simple is described in the Shastras as acharyavan. When one has guidance from an acharya, one vets the acharya and understands the epistemology, that we get knowledge from some source, we validate the source, and then we accept whatever process is given from that source. It's necessary to survive in the world. To do anything useful, one has to accept some authority. So there's a way in which Caitanya Mahāprabhu demonstrated by accepting an acharya, spiritual master, who then instructed him in the essence of spiritual life by giving him a simple verse, which says, Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam, repeats 3 times. There's only one process. And he emphasized it by saying, there's no other process. 3 times he said also. And when Caitanya Mahāprabhu was in an assembly of devotees, Vallabhacharya, a great scholar, and ultimately an acharya unto himself, had offered an interpretation of the holy name of the Lord. And Mahaprabhu didn't recognize that. He said, it's very simple. I only know that the holy name is Krishna himself, Shyamasundar. And that's it. I don't acknowledge any other interpretation. Simple. I've received it from my acharya, I'm chanting it, and that's it. So one can keep one's practice very simple. Acharya Van. Accept the acharya. If you have that, acharya Van, that sense that I can't understand everything, I can't interpret the holy name, but I can accept that there is a line of authority of great souls, and that there's an instruction passed down that there's one process, not two, not 1.5, just one. And that's chanting the holy name. And if we take that, it keeps things very simple. 2 devotees, one was Tapana Mishra, who read so many books that he got confused. He was a great scholar, so he could read all the commentaries. So he read thousands of books, and then he admitted that, I don't know what to do now. As I've heard so many things, I'm not sure what the right path is. And then he met Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu and said, what should I do? Maharaj said, there's one thing, not 1.5, just one. Chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. And so we can take that same approach. It's simple, although it's also a bona fide process. Accept the acharya, accept the one process, and just focus there. And that gives the mind this commitment to one thing, just the holy name. And if we chant like that, acharya has given it, all the power is there. Even if I don't have taste, I still have dogged faith in the acharya, and I'll just go on chanting. And if we do that, we'll be successful in the process. How does that sit with you? Just saying, nice. So let's try by, somebody had mentioned to me recently, when online we had a process for set your sankalpa, why am I chanting? And the devotee said, I wasn't sure what to say. So another simple way to set a sankalpa, say, Krishna, I'm your eternal servant, please accept me and engage me in your service. It's the meaning of the mantra. So if you don't have a sankalpa, you don't have to invent one, it's already there. Oh my Lord, oh energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service. Simple, simple. You keep it like that, and then whatever anybody says, interprets, I say, I only know one thing. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam. So take a second, 10 seconds to set your sankalpa, and then we'll start chanting Hare Krishna. Just coming to the last part of our japa session together, and I would like to recount a story from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Nanu and I like to, I'm going to, forthwith. And that is the story of Subuddhi Rāya. Subuddhi Rāya found himself on the opposite side of the authority structure, the way sometimes happens in politics. Somebody's in charge and then they find themselves subordinated later. This is the way of the material nature. Things switch. He had been overseeing as part of the government and as a wealthy person, authoritative, certain projects, and he had subordinates. And later in his life, he found himself as subordinate to those who had been his subordinates. And one of them had one day been affectionately remembering Subuddhi Rāya as his master at that time, and had mentioned to his wife incidentally that there had been an incident during which Subuddhi Rāya, as the in-charge, had chastised this person for an impropriety. And his wife became indignant. That is, the person who was recounting the story, his wife, and she said, you should kill him. He shouldn't have chastised you, you should kill him. And he said, I can't kill him. He is my beloved master, and I have great respect for him. She persisted till he said, well, at least make him lose his caste. People were very caste conscious at that particular era. So much so that if somebody from a particular caste, for instance, Subuddhi Rāya was from a Brahmana caste, was sprinkled with water from the water pot of somebody from outside the Varnashram, that person was said to have lost his or her caste. So Subuddhi Rāya, wanting to satisfy his wife, Tulsi Maharani ki jai, had then agreed, okay, I'll sprinkle him with water from my water pot and he'll lose his stature in society. So he went there and he sprinkled water on Subuddhi Rāya, and Subuddhi Rāya was humiliated and went to many people for advice. Some people said you should drink boiling hot ghee and die. Others said, oh, it's no big deal, just go on. And if you've ever been in that situation where you got multiple answers to your question, if you look it up on YouTube, everyone will tell you something different, because everyone has a different angle. So Subuddhi Rāya was very confused. So he was advised to go to Lord Caitanya. And he asked Lord Caitanya, after telling him of his situation, what should I do? And Mahaprabhu gave a very simple answer and straightforward. Would you like to know what his answer was? Yes. The solution? Yes. It's three words. Chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. One may say, oh, that's too simple. I need a political solution. I need to take it to court. I need some other way to rectify the situation. But Caitanya Mahaprabhu's approach was very simple. Chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. And I read a letter that Prabhupada wrote to one of the members of ISKCON who had brought Prabhupada some conundrum. And Prabhupada wrote back, he said, it's the same old answer, and it's 3 words. That's right. So the simple approach, according to Occam's razor, is the best. And one may adopt a simple process after well-reasoned faith in the process itself. It's already been vetted. You don't have to vet it yourself. You don't have to invent something else. There's 3 words, Chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. Everyone's going to undergo tribulation in life because it's a very confusing world we live in, politically, physically, relationship-wise, and so on. So there's 3 words, which we'll end with today. Chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. Thank you very much for joining the Japa Circle. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu, Sri Sri Panchatattva, Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Sri Lakshmi Nrsimhadev. If you so desire, please let us take the simple approach of taking shelter of our Acharya and following the advice to chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. Thank you for considering our request. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.